Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to the Rich Hart Global Show. Hey, with me today, my personal guest is Mr. Mark Hammond from Union Home Mortgage. Mark, welcome to the program.
Rich, it's always good to be with you. It's a great day to be alive.
Always. One step above, right? One step above. Hey, so Mark, today I brought you in. We're going to be talking about VA financing. We're also going to be talking about some programs that are coming up, especially in Jacksonville, Florida. We'll talk about it in a second. Also in Duluth, Georgia. But we're talking about military. We're talking about the military relocation. We're talking about helping families in real estate and really developing a sense of worth for their home ownership and a path to home ownership. All right. So, Mark, let's talk about just a little bit in the beginning about your home or the Union Home Mortgage.
Sure, absolutely. So I work for Union Home Mortgage. We're based out of Cleveland, Ohio. Our owner, Bill Cosgrove, bought the company about 40 years ago. He's been in the business for over 40 years. He started off actually as a real estate agent.
Good.
And about a year in as a real estate agent, someone convinced him to go to the finance side. He went to work for a mortgage broker in Cleveland, and about 10 years later bought the company. He's had the same business card his entire career. So an impressive guy. He owns the entire company, no debt. And I work in what's called our B2B division, or third-party originations division. It's wholesale.
Okay.
Basically, so we're B2B, so we work with thousands of mortgage brokers, mortgage loan officers, small community banks, and credit unions who don't have the capacity to build their own mortgage-backed securities. Right. They come to us for that liquidity, use our programs, and then we handle all of the securitization process for them. You might have seen the movie The Big Short.
Big Short, right?
We're one of those guys on the back end, and then we collect the payments from the consumers and pass off the residuals to all the folks that invest in our mortgage-backed securities.
So it sounds like it's a national program.
It is. All right. We're in all 50 states except for New York. So that's 49.
Well, we're going to have to get there, right? That's my old stomping ground.
You're from New York, right?
That's my old stomping ground, so we're going to have to get up there.
It's tough to get a license in New York.
But Mark, you and I, we've been working together for a good long time, all right? And the relationships themselves we built out, it was because of the fact of what was happening in real estate, all right, through and working with our military families. And so as we start to take a look at it, the National Association of Realtors comes out and they say, working with military market, all home buyers and sellers want to feel that they've made some good decisions somewhere along the lines. It says out here, it says military service members are no different. All right, they don't have the luxury of time of waiting for a market to turn. Our military families move every 2 to 3 years, which now that we see a lot of that going on, 10 moves, maybe over a 20-year career, is probably not that unusual, already. And learning how to serve that market, starting to understand the marketing, or let's just talk about the process of working with those individuals, their wants and needs, the concerns, or learning a little bit more about the process and procedures is extremely important, especially for today's real estate professionals, in working and guiding and developing a relationship with the military families. What do you feel about that?
So first off, I'm not a veteran, but I have the most respect for veterans, that they go out and they risk life and limb, and they risk it all in some cases. For our freedoms that we enjoy here in the country, we live in a free country. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to choose the own business we want to do. We're not dictated by the government on what we can do. We can go out and we can make a great living in real estate, in your case, and real estate finance, in my case. And I think we owe it to our veterans to do everything we can to make sure, if they want to be, make sure they become homeowners and help build up some net worth for their families, given the fact that they've risked it all in many cases. To serve our country.
Yeah, without a doubt. Definitely blessing the ground we walk on, all right, for their service themselves to the country, without it, 100%. And so now I think real estate professionals, we were just talking just a second ago about insurance providers, different types of financial providers themselves have a very unique opportunity of working with these individuals, especially from the armed forces. Out there, and then taking a look at that military market. And the market, let's talk about it, the market itself. The market itself, as they say, it's a rather huge market, all right? But some of the figures themselves we were talking about before, it's worldwide active duty service members number more than 1.3 million, and at close to 1.6 million with dependents and spouses and children and immediate family members. And they also say about 88% of the active duty personnel are stationed where? Right here in the United States.
That's right. So using those numbers, if they turn over every 2 to 3 years, roughly 1.5 million, that's 500,000 transactions that are going to happen in a year with just the active duty service members. And I believe last year, total home sales for existing home sales were just under 5 million.
5 million, right.
That's a huge chunk of the existing home sales
Right, exactly.
that are going to happen regardless. And if a lot of those folks are active military, I think it's important to be able to understand what they're going through. And you said it also that the timing of their sale and purchase may not be dictated by them. If they're active duty, they could get change orders, and there's a term for that.
Yeah,
right?
PCS.
Oh, PCS. Thank you very much.
Permanent change station.
They get those orders, and they have a certain timeline where it doesn't matter what the market's doing. They can't necessarily time the market.
No, definitely
They've got a day they've got to leave, a day they've got to show up on the job in their new location. They may have families, and they need a place to live.
Right. Understanding the market is extremely important. Understanding the military market is extremely important. And the tools and the resources, and the skills and knowledge themselves, they're helping those individuals with the transfer. Transfers themselves are not very easy, especially on families. All right. But now it's understanding that relocation process, which we said before, when they receive those PCS or those change orders coming in, they've got to act real fast. Today's real estate agents themselves need to be that flexible. And as well as I do, that whole industry from a real estate perspective has changed already. MRP, Military Relocation Professional, that's put up by the National Association of Realtors, is one of those programs themselves that we have been working very dynamically over the many, many years, to bringing agents, real estate professionals, salespeople, depends upon where you are in the country, brokers, to the forefront of helping, guiding, leading, and developing the skills, knowledge, tools, and resources to better serve this military community, which I think is unique. You talked to yourself before. You said you talked about the PCS, but there's in the process is understanding ranks. It's understanding pay. It's also understanding what some of the acronyms stand for, and there's a ton of acronyms out there, such as the DoD, Department of Defense. Or when we start talking about DD-214s, which we'll get to,
Right.
Or we're talking about COEs, certificates of eligibility. These things are going to be very important tools of knowledge, so we can now guide those individuals to the next step.
Yeah, so if you're a salesperson and you don't understand your customer, in this case the military and their families, and what they're going through with these change orders and other things that are going on in their lives, and the acronyms and all the things that may be important to them, that are important to them, if you don't understand those things as a salesperson, you get what I call call reluctance. Yeah, you're scared to go after that community and help them because you don't know all the acronyms, you don't know all the things they're going through. Right. And so that's the beauty of your MRP, Military Relocation Professional course, is that you teach all those things to the agents and help them get more comfortable, help them take that next step towards becoming more comfortable to help serving this community.
Right. There's the three areas that we're going to be covering in this course. One, we talked about market. Two, we talk about the process. But three, we talk about the VA lending instruments. Okay, and what about the VA and how that works? Now, aside that, those are three areas of deep concern. All right, when we start to really dial deep into those areas. But I think it's also what I do cover in this program is the business development side, which is extremely important because we know as real estate professionals, it's based upon referral. All right, and how individuals, it's a talking business. All right, you have to build a relationship building business. And so as we start to work and develop, not only from the market standpoint and from the tools and resources needed on there, all right, but then we're now really diving into how to put all those pieces together to make it a very, very unique experience for this relocation or the individuals themselves that are perhaps working or developing a relationship in a different part of a country, unknown, or let's say different part of the world, okay, or nationally, all right, in an area itself that they may not be familiar with. And so we do have a lot of folks themselves that could really help us and guide us, lead us with that. How is your services really going to help, all right, especially from your mortgage providers out there? We know we got MRP coming up in Jacksonville, Florida on the 25th of January. And then we have the Military Relocation Program, the schedule right now in Duluth, Georgia. We know Ryan Profit is going to be your lead man, all right, for finance, already out in Jacksonville. And we have Tim Arrington.
That's right.
Who's going to be your lead man itself out there in Duluth, Georgia. Okay.
Yeah, so that's right. So Ryan is the owner of Future Home Loans in Jacksonville, and it's a veteran-owned business. So it's very important. Community is very important to Ryan. He already understands it. And so he's inviting his agent partners to come to your training in Jacksonville on the 25th to get familiar with what he already knows, what is being in that military community, trying to help his agents do a better job of serving that community. So we're excited about that. And then Tim is in Atlanta, Georgia, and next month in February. He owns a company called Mortgage Core, and he has a partnership with Maximum One Realty up in Duluth, and they're inviting all their agents the same thing to learn how to better serve this community. So you and I have done at least a couple dozen of these events over the years.
Without a doubt.
I remember. I think I did a Veterans Day barbecue at the American Legion by my house. And the speaker mentioned MRP on one of the slides, and I'd never heard of the course, MRP, again, Military Relocation Professional.
Right.
And so I Googled it, and I found the Georgia Association of Realtors, and the first 5 or 6 trainers on the list were all
Rich Hart.
Well, they were all competitors of mine. They were other mortgage loan officers, and you were the first one. I got to the H's. And you were the first one who was not a licensed mortgage loan officer.
You know what that means? I have to take the H out of my name and call it Rich Hart, all right,
there you
so
go.
I can get
Rich
to the
Art.
A top.
The art of Rich.
Without a doubt.
I like that. So I called you. You picked up the phone, and here we are many years later. And I think it's important. We'll do it here in Jacksonville and again in Duluth. But I think it's important for these folks to really develop a community with the agents that come to these events. I think it's important to follow up with the agents and make sure they complete the certification. Coming to the course, they get 6 credit hours, 6 continuing ed hours for their certification for the real estate agent license, and then they've got to do a second step. They got to make sure they join NAR, and also complete the certification online with NAR, and then they've got it the rest of their careers. They've got access to the marketing materials. They've got access to their name gets put in the database. So when a veteran, active duty or retired veteran, goes in and tries to find an agent in a new market, their name will come up in the database as a military relocation professional, and they'll probably get a few leads for just being in the database, and then it gives them all kinds of marketing stuff they can use on their social medias, on their business cards, on their flyers, to help put themselves in front of the community with confidence that they know how to serve them better, and help more veterans get into houses. So I think I'll challenge Ryan and Tim at these events to start that process, start the follow-up process with the folks that come to the training, make sure they complete the certification, and then create a community where we can find out best practices. Hey, are you going to the VFW and meeting with veterans and finding out what their concerns are about home ownership?
Right.
Are you putting yourself in front of groups of veterans to help them?
Sure.
To learn about home ownership and the benefits of home ownership. Buying versus renting. And then, of course, we'll talk about later the VA financing process.
Sure. You hedged on a piece out there is that individuals themselves, especially in military relocation, they're moving from state to state to state, and sometimes OCONUS moves themselves or moves themselves that, or just could be next state over. Doesn't really matter if it's next state over. So it's the reach out already of others themselves that have completed this MRP course. All right, that I want to work with individuals already. Mark, you know me, I do a ton of courses for the National Association of Realtors, a ton of courses themselves, speaking all over the country and things of this nature. And this one itself, when I tell people all the time, is make sure you line up with other individuals already in other parts of the state and other parts of the country that have these types of certifications, because the individuals, they know how to handle a particular client. Okay, and so you can always refer back and get those guys going. All righty, and so within that, that's going to be very, very important out there. Hey, today we're with Mark Hammond. All righty, with the Union Home Mortgage. I got that right this time, right? Union Home Mortgage, and Mark, we're talking about the MRP program. All right, military relocation. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get back into and talking about the financing. When we go into that third area, into the course, all right, what I have always done is always brought, all right, individuals like Ryan and Tim into the program with us, okay? Because yes, we can go through, I can teach you and train you, everything that Tim and Ryan, but Tim and Ryan, okay, and plus yourself, you do it every day, day in, day out. And so I think it's very important that when we do the Q&A and we go through that third section, you guys are right there. Because we want somebody we can lean on when those questions do come up and we do have to raise that kind of concern, or is this document right, or is that document right? So let's talk about that a little bit from the financing. What are the folks themselves going to walk away with from that third section and working with individuals like Ryan and Tim and yourself?
That's a great question, and I think it's important really just to keep it simple. you don't need to be a VA lending expert to be able to serve veterans. Now, what's important is that you work with a mortgage loan officer who is versed in VA lending. Most of them are. There is an additional level of certification that a loan officer can get. It's called a certified veteran lending specialist,
Right.
which is the next level of loan officer for serving veterans. But most loan officers are well versed in VA lending. Their agents don't have to be a VA lending expert to be able to serve the military community. Just work with a loan officer who knows what they're doing.
That's
and
right.
of course, Ryan and Tim are two of those. And I work with hundreds, maybe even thousands of them across the country. And I can help. I put your audience in touch with those folks. But I think that's number one, is that the agent does not need to learn VA lending.
That's right.
Number two is something it's kind of a shame that we've seen it, but I've seen agents steer away from offers from veterans because there's a misconception in the market about VA lending. One is I think that they feel like that this is the only kind of loan that a veteran can get.
Okay.
And that may be the case, but it's not.
Maybe.
It's not likely the case. A veteran can use a VA loan to buy a $2, $3, $4, $5 million house. I mean, you don't have to use it for just small and medium sized purchases. So just because a veteran's using a VA loan doesn't mean they don't have more money to put down or even cash to buy the house outright.
Exactly.
We've found that the veterans tend to have more cash reserves than conventional, definitely more than FHA, and definitely more than USDA lending.
Right,
and other loan programs. They tend to have higher credit scores and way lower delinquency. The fact of the matter is the VA loan, because of its guarantee from the U.S. government, they can get into a house with 0% down. And so the veteran may have mutual funds. He may have other investments. He may have other real estate properties, and he wants to keep that money invested in other places.
Right.
And he's using the VA benefit to its maximum to maximize his or her return.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't mean they don't have the money. They're not credit worthy. They can't get any other kind of loan. Now, that could be the case because the VA lending guidelines are very flexible.
Right.
But it's not necessarily the case. So I think we owe it as real estate professionals to not discourage sellers from accepting VA offers. So part of the course, I think, is to help dispel that myth. And again, the other thing is you don't have to be a VA lending expert to be able to do a VA loan. The other thing that comes up that's a misconception too is the appraisal process.
Yeah.
So with VA, you do have to use a VA panel appraisal.
All right.
To order the appraisal. And in the past, pre-2008 crash, that probably was a bit of a disadvantage.
Sure was.
But the VA, well, in some ways it wasn't. Because the VA, they don't want the veteran overpaying for the house.
No,
they want the veteran to get a good deal on the house, and they want someone with some fiduciary involved in the process to have a independent opinion of what the house is worth. And of course, fast forward to today, all loans that are made in the secondary market are done with a panel. So the rest of the mortgage market copied what the VA had been doing all along to use a panel. So actually by law you're required to use a panel and have it be a blind draw. And again, I mean, you don't want other parties that have interest in the real estate process to influence the opinion of the value of the property. We need an independent inspection of the property. Is it safe and sound?
Yeah.
Is it there? Is it structurally there?
Sound, do we say?
And then, and then do we have comparables to support the sales price?
Fair market value.
Yeah.
And
we've got a willing buyer and seller, but we don't need those folks influencing the independent assessment of the real estate. Because in many cases, for the veteran, it's the largest financial transaction they might do in their entire life.
We know that as that being, and many of us real estate agents know that, all right, because this is going to be one of those safeguards out there that they're putting a lot of money in a particular area, and they want to know that hopefully that investment, that asset is going to be safeguarded.
Well, they're signing up for a big piece of debt.
That's it. Without a doubt. I understand.
And I'm giving them the money.
Matt, that's even better. I'm going to take some of that. So, Mark, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. All righty. MRP, military relocation, 100% through and through. Would you recommend that to real estate professionals, or recommend it to any others themselves in the field of play?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it's a great certification for agents, obviously, to get more familiar with the military families and help them on the path towards homeownership. I think it may not be for everybody. I think if you, for me personally, I've got a soft spot for our vets. I couldn't do what they did I mean, I go play paintball and I get scared. I can't imagine doing it with live bullets on the line. I don't. I'm soft. I'm too soft.
Understand.
Gen X, we didn't have to go through the draft and all that stuff. So I have a ton of respect for the guys and gals that they put their lives on the line. But if you're a real estate agent and you don't have that same, passion for military and for our veterans, then then maybe it's not for you.
That's without it. Hey, so like I said, to reiterate itself, going to be Jacksonville, Florida. All right, we're going to give you some information itself on that. We'll make sure we put this in the show notes for you. For Jacksonville, Florida on January 25th. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia on February 2nd. Already. And on top of that, I know, Mark, what's going to happen because this is going to springboard into a lot of other areas and a lot around the country. And so we'll be coming to a city near you. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Real soon, without a doubt. Hey, so I want to thank you very much, and thank you, Mark, for coming on, already from on the Military Relocation Professional and representing the Union Home Mortgage on there. So any last comments for us?
No, Rich, it's always a pleasure. I love working with you, and I love working with you to help serve our veterans.
That's good. Well, I want to thank you very much. All right, appreciate it. And hey, until next time.